This is my Stoger Condor over and under shotgun, and what happened is the forestock split and broke and fell off, and when it did, I wasn't able to get these nuts and screws back on, and it turns out this little lever, which is probably a holdover from some other model where you can take the forestock off to break it down and pack it. This doesn't really do anything. So without the nut and the bolts holding the forestock on, the stock would just slide off. Also doesn't help that there's a chunk missing here. It was broken. So I glued the forestock separately from here, and then I had to figure out how to put these nuts back on. And so what I ended up doing is using a Dremel tool and cutting a slot in the bolt, and then I could put a screwdriver from the top and then screw, actually this way, the nut around it and down to hold it securely in place. And then here you can see I put a little dab of glue. I didn't fill in the slot, but just kind of around it, so that it would help keep these from backing out in the field. And this white residue is the Gorilla Glue from when I was gluing the stock here, and I'm not too worried about it. I think it'll just kind of wear off with field use and mud and dirty hands and oil and stuff. But anyway, it's on here nice and secure now, so I'm pretty happy with it. I think it'll hold as long as the stock doesn't split somewhere else. And I looked online for this forestock, and it's $75. This gun was pretty cheap, so I really wasn't willing to dump another $75 into something else that might just break again. So I decided I needed to repair it, and spent the time figuring out how to do so, particularly getting these nuts and bolts back together, because that was the hard part, and that was key to the whole thing. I've already cut the slot in the first one, and then I'm going to do it in the second. The slit cut in the top of each one of these nut bolts, I'll be able to turn it from the top like that once I've got the nut on it. I have this problem where the nut is floating like that, and so what I did is, because I didn't have time to go out and buy one, a proper one, I made an E-clip out of a washer that fit by just snipping one end of it and then forcing it down, and so now it stays in place, and it'll keep this bolt up high enough so that I can get the nut on it, because otherwise it was dropping down and I couldn't. There, you can see it there. See, it wants to just drop, but I need it up so that I can screw the nut on it once the stock is on. And see that's staying now. There you can see the one that's staying up and the one that won't stay up. So here I've got both of my homemade E-clips so that the bolts don't drop down. Just basically snipped a washer and then forced it down over it, holding it with pliers. So my E-clip resulted in it not fitting right. It looks like it's going to work, but this is about the height of the E-clip washer. So what I need to do is countersink on the other side of the stock here so that it'll fit down over it. just remove just this tiny bit of wood, and then it should fit flush, and then more of the bolt will pop up to where I can get it with a nut. So I got the first one good and snug, and now the second one is ready to do it. And so I'll put my screwdriver down in here. Another thing you have to remember is you go counterclockwise because you're turning the bolt toward the nut.